when I was your age, I made a promise to God. I was sitting in that seat right there, metaphorically, and I made a promise to God. And I promised God, as I was watching these same conferences, I would go to political conferences, same as you. And I'm in my 30s, so it wasn't that long ago. And I made a promise that if I ever got the honor and the privilege of standing on stage, a stage like this, that one, I would give an uplifting, hopeful message to young people, the kind of uplifting, hopeful message that I wanted when I was a young man.
You can't give a message that is purely positive without taking into account the realities of what's actually happening in society. That is irresponsible. That is not the right thing to do, okay? You can't just stand on a stage and come out with some Pollyanna thinking and say, yes, good job, I made that promise to God, I made that promise to myself, I was going to send an uplifting message, and now I've done that, and I've just completely glossed over the realities of modern life. That's not the right way to treat your audience, okay, ladies and gentlemen?
That I would speak to young men and try my hardest to show them that there is a purpose to your life.
Well,
that God has a purpose to your life.
No, there is a purpose to your life, but it doesn't necessarily need to be one determined by Benny Johnson at the TPUSA.
That God loves
Sorry, I mean at America Fest 2023.
You, and that you can become what God created you to be by following a few simple steps. And I can show you what unshakable joy, purpose, happiness, and uplifting looks like. This is what it looks like.
It's so hokey, isn't it? It's so cheesy. I mean, that's Tucker Carlson, right? That's presumably Tucker Carlson's family. This is what unshakable stuff looks like, and happiness and purpose and all of this stuff. Why is Benny Johnson not showing a picture of his family? Is he not married yet? Has he not got kids? Maybe he hasn't. I don't know. I mean, the whole rhetoric design of this it's very, very trad. It's very hokey. This is the kind of thing that we see on Twitter the whole time. You know, you'll see like a picture like this of the happy family, and then next to it you'll see a picture of like Dan Bilzerian in a swimming pool surrounded by smoking a cigar, surrounded by bikini-clad beauties, and it'll sort of say, a real man doesn't want this, a real man wants this, and point at the picture of the family, and everybody in the comments will be like, yeah, that's right, a real man, a real alpha man wants the family. Again, look, nothing wrong with having a family, nothing wrong with wanting to pass on your genetic legacy and all of that good stuff, but to pretend that it is problem-free, to pretend that it is the route to unbridled happiness and I forget the other adjectives he used, what else was he saying, but to pretend that it is just this unproblematic route to all of this stuff is disingenuous, and it's leading people down a path that in the current climate, I'm really sorry to break it to you, could turn out to be incredibly damaging.
This is what it looks like to be unshakable.
Unshakable.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain that.
But is it though? Is it? Because we're going to look at some divorce stats in a bit, right? And no surprises, spoiler alert, the divorce statistics don't look that good. So how is that unshakable, right? Is it really unshakable if 50% of marriages fail? If an estimated 75% of marriages are not actually even happy? Is that unshakable? Is that your route to self-actualization and happiness and all the other stuff he said? Really? Really, Benny Johnson? Are you going to be there, Benny Johnson, if I wife up some chick and then it all goes wrong and she's charging me alimony and I can't afford to pay it and I don't get to see my kids? Are you going to be there, Benny, to look after me, to give me the hug that I need, to give me that sustenance and support? Probably not, Benny Johnson. You're probably not going to be there for me, are you?
Young men, we're just going to cut right to it.
Young men.
If you want to be an immovable mountain in your life, if you wish to be a strong alpha, I beg you.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is actually the kind of tactic that a lot of women will actually use, and feminist women, and actually any women, really, who want to get their own way. They want to get guys to act in a certain way. They'll use this same sort of subtle shaming. They'll say, no, this is the alpha thing to do. The alpha thing to do is not be Dan Bilzerian. Don't be surrounded by a bunch of hot, beautiful, sexy, in their prime Victoria's Secret models. Fuck all of that. If you want to be the real alpha, be Tucker Carlson. That's how you become unshakable. Until 8 years later, because that's the average duration of a marriage, she ends up dumping your ass, and then you're screwed, and you don't get to see your kids, and you've got to pay alimony, and all the rest of it. Which is the bit they always, well, I'd say gloss over. They don't even fucking mention it, do they?
Find a woman.
Find a woman. Anyone will do. It doesn't fucking matter. Just go out, find her. Just go and grab someone off the street. It's fine.
Fall in love. Get married. Have more children than you can afford.
I mean, it's just that is the real like facepalm moment, isn't it? I mean, this exhortation. Have more children than you can afford. I mean, how on any fucking planet? How on any fucking planet is that stable advice? That's not even conservative advice. That doesn't even come under that. You can't even call that conservative. That's the opposite of conservative. To have more children than you can afford. I mean, on what level is that a fucking good idea? Is it a good idea for the children who are born into poverty and potential destitution because you couldn't use a condom? You know, is it good for? Is it economically good? Is it grounded in good economic fiscal sense? Absolutely not. Is this guy insane? Like, what's he fucking talking about?
Fall in love.
Fall in love.
Get married. Have more children than you can afford. Have insane amounts.
And they're all cheering in the background. They're all in the background. Yeah, Betty Johnson. I'm going to have more children than I can afford. Are you going to be there to pick up the pieces, Betty Johnson, when it all goes wrong? Are you, Benny? Are you? Of course he isn't. I mean, he doesn't give a damn what happens in, you know, he's pushing this message. Okay, fine. That's his, you know, that's the party line at this conference. Okay, great. He's pushing this message. The potential individual consequences of this for people who are watching this speech. Benny Johnson doesn't give a damn. He's not going to be there. You can DM him on Twitter. He's not going to respond. So, oh yeah, my wife left me. She's banging the local plumber. I can't see my kids now. I've got to pay this alimony. I can't afford it. I'm about to lose my job. What do I do, Benny Johnson? Benny Johnson's not going to be there to help you out. He's long gone. He's taken his check from bloody Turning Point USA, and he's in the Caribbean having a great holiday. He doesn't care about
kids. There's nothing the world can do to shake you if you do those simple.
Well, apart from getting divorce raped, I mean, which is, you know, the world can very much shake you when it does that. It's happened to friends of mine. It's happened to very close associates of mine, and people are going through it right now. It's not great, man.
Steps, and if you acknowledge that God,
particularly because he doesn't even say anything about vetting. He doesn't even say, oh, you know, go to your local church and maybe find somebody where you're... I mean, at least the likes of Matt Walsh, and more on Matt Walsh later, but at least those guys, you know, they'll kind of temper it a little bit and sort of be like, yeah, you know, you want to find somebody with the same kind of values as you, the same sort of, you know, you're coming from the same spiritual outlook and so on and so forth. Benny Johnson, fuck all of that. Benny Johnson is just like, no, find a woman, fall in love, marry her. And that's it.
Loves you and has a purpose for your life. That's it. That's it. And you are immovable, unshakable.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's... Look, as I say, I understand. You're standing on a stage in front of all of these people, and you're there to create emotion in the crowd. Okay, this is rhetorical stuff. You get from a performative aspect what he's doing, but the advice, the actual advice here, and again, as I say, I understand in a fairly brief speech, there's probably not much time for nuance and quiet reflection, but Jesus Christ, you're basically telling this whole group of people, just go out there, find a woman, doesn't matter who she is, get married, pump out more kids than you can afford. I struggle to think of a more irresponsible piece of advice that I've heard given out on social media. And I'm on X, right? I've been on X for umpteen years. So I've seen a lot of irresponsible advice given out. Some of it by myself. But I can't think of anything more life-damaging than what Mr. Johnson is saying here.